The world around me was dark. I couldn't see more than a few meters ahead of me. I got up from the fetal position I was lying in and looked around. Moments after getting to my feet, factory lights lit up above me one by one. They were only lighting up spots on the floor, nothing around me. I walked along the path they set for me. The lights kept switching on one by one until the 9th light, which shined down on my closest classmates and teachers. They seemed confused and worried. "He's coming," said Midoriya in a monotone voice. "What?" "He's coming." This time he whispered it. I heard heavy footsteps slowly coming behind me, and turned to look as the lights were shutting off one by one at each step until the last light in front of me had gone out. I turned to face my friends again and saw they'd all died, their skin and flesh rotting and deteriorating. I ran over and fell to my knees as I wailed in despair. Sue's hand grabbed my arm as she looked at me with an eyeless face. She slowly croaked, "You could have saved us." "From who? Who is it?" I asked in vain, as all that was left were a pile of bones. The bones started rattling as I jumped back a few steps and I watched, the bones melting and merging together. The pile of bones bubbled and set a form, a 3-headed giant skeleton that looked down on me in contempt. Its voice sounded like everyone's combined. "Weakling! Pathetic child! You can't even see what's 2 steps ahead of you!" "No, I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me." The skeleton reached into the floor and phased through it, grabbing a chain and attaching it to my ankle. It dropped a key to the cuff in front of me and told me to grab it. "Only you can save yourself. Remove the shackles and set yourself free." The floor below me turned into a conveyor belt, which started pulling me towards a sheer drop, which was now being illuminated by lights above it. I panicked as my arms refused to cooperate. I tried to grab the key, but it kept slipping through my fingers, and my fingers were also numb. I could barely move them. The edge got closer and closer as the skeleton shook its head in disapproval. It folded its arms and walked away into the darkness as I reached the edge and fell. I fell into the void. The only feeling I felt was the air rushing through my hair as tears poured from my eyes. I suddenly landed on my back and jumped. My eyes shot open as I gasped and sat up, looking around. I was in a hospital bed. Just another bad dream. It felt symbolic, like a bad omen or some crap. There was no one in the room with me, and I was really thirsty. I swung my legs over the side of my bed and lay them on the floor. No shoes or socks. The floor was cold, and I suddenly got the inclination to look down at myself and threw the covers off of me. I was in a hospital gown. My clothes were nowhere to be found. I looked around and saw some slippers, which I put onto my feet. They didn't fit well. I nearly fell over a few times as I adjusted to them, being a few sizes too big. I shuffled to the door whilst dragging a machine attached to the IV line that was in my arm. It was on wheels so that patients could wander if they wanted to. I pulled the handle down and pulled the door back, walking through. It was early evening by now, and was pretty dead. I walked down the hall, not knowing where I was. I looked up and saw all the signs with Japanese writing. I still had a little trouble reading Japanese, especially when I was woozy, so couldn't get any help from that. I finally stumbled across Recovery Girl, the first aid hero who was usually on site to help students and teachers heal their injuries. "What are you doing out of bed, young man? You should be resting," she berated me. It felt nice to have a maternal authority looking after me like that. Reminded me of my grandmother. Hadn't seen her for a few years. "Sorry, I was just looking for a drink. Also, where are my clothes?" "Go back to bed, and I'll be with you shortly with some water and some answers." She left me with a cryptic answer, but I did as I was told, and went back to my room. It felt good to stretch my muscles, even though it wasn't much. I climbed back into the bed and coughed a bit. A few moments later, Recovery Girl came in with a disposable cup filled with water. I thanked her and downed the whole cup in a matter of seconds. She sat on the end of the bed and watched me. "About your clothes, they were torn up a fair bit after your transformation. They're being stitched up right now." I thanked her again before asking, "Is everyone alright?" She chuckled. "Everyone has been asking the same about you. Why don't you ask them yourself? They're dying to see you." My eyes shimmered with excitement, and I requested for them to see me. They must have been waiting close by, as they were in my room within minutes. Not just my close friends, but the whole class. Midoriya had a cast, and Mr. Aizawa wasn't present. "Guys, I'm so glad to see you're alright. Midoriya, what happened to your arm?" He explained to me about how his quirk shattered his bones whenever he used it. Ouch. I then asked if Mr. Aizawa was okay, and they told me that he was resting and just about in a stable condition. There was a short silence before I was suddenly bombarded by questions. First, Hagakure asked how I was so brave to fight that monster. Then Sato asked how strong I was in that form. Third, Bakugo asked how long I was going to keep it a secret, and then promised he'd beat me regardless of how strong I was in that form. I put my hands up, one at a time. Actually, it doesn't matter, because I don't know how to answer any of those. It all just happened. I wasn't conscious during any of it, and I didn't know I could do it. "Well, what caused it to happen?" Seiro had asked. Good question. What did happen? Let's see. The last thing I remember was Sue getting hit, and then I just blacked out. Mina got excited and clapped her hands together as she stood over my bed and looked into my eyes with an open-mouthed smile. "A special romance, huh? Tell me all about it. You and Sue would make such a cute couple." That feeling of warmth came to my face again as I put my hands up. "No, that's not it. I saw my friend getting hurt and wanted to protect them. It wasn't anything like that." She looked disappointed and stepped away, tilting her head at me. "Aw, come on. You're no fun. Are you sure you don't like her?" I had absolutely no idea how to respond, and stammered a few times, before I was saved by Ida, who interjected. "Ashiro, he had a hard time battling valiantly to save us all. We should respect him for it and not embarrass him in front of everyone." I almost replied, but decided to leave it at that. Didn't need to reinstate it, nor did I want to. But to be fair, I was kind of thinking of Mina's comment about us making a cute couple, and I could envision it. "I'm just glad you're all okay. I don't think I'd forgive myself if I'd let anything happen to any of you, especially if I was the one who ended up hurting you." Kaminari smiled and poked himself in the chest with his thumb and proudly stated, "Don't you worry about us. I think we're alright on our own." Jiro giggled. "You fell over twice after you used your quirk too much." His pride deflated as he was being made fun of. I kind of felt bad for him, but it was pretty funny. We all chatted for a while, and eventually my classmates started leaving one by one, as they each had something to do or had to get home because of the time. Eventually it was just Sue and I. She hadn't said anything this whole time, which was unlike her. She was being even quieter than Koda. I looked over and saw she was sitting on a chair, looking at the floor with her fingers touching each other. "Sue-chan, you alright?" She looked up at me and twirled her hair a little in between her fingers on her left hand, just above her cute little hair bow. "What Ashido-chan said, is it true?" My pupils dilated, as I wasn't sure what to say. I mean, yeah, it was true, I did like her, but I couldn't just outright say it. "Well, before I answer that, how would you react to either scenario?" I tried to dodge her question, but she was having none of it. "Why don't you tell me and we'll find out, Gero?" My hands started shaking a little, so I hid them under the blanket, which I brought up to my chin. I looked to the side and tried to figure out a way of not saying it. She was persistent. I liked that, as annoying as it was in this case. "I guess it wasn't because you're just a random friend. I don't really know how to explain it because I've never felt this way about someone before." The hint got through to her as I saw a blush creep up over her cheeks. She looked down again. "We hardly know each other." "Then why don't we get to know each other better? If you want to go someplace and hang out, you're always welcome at my place if you want. Or yours, I don't really mind what we do." She put her finger to her chin, as she usually did when she was thinking. Your place in 2 days. 8 o'clock. Is that alright, Kara? Did she just... Yes, absolutely. 8 in the evening, right? She looked at me blankly. Well, not 8 in the morning. We'll miss our classes. I definitely don't want to play hooky. I slapped myself in the forehead. I was so giddy I ended up saying something silly. Of course, I knew that. I was just testing you. She giggled a little and got up from the chair she was sitting in a much brighter mood now. I think she was really nervous about asking me that day. I was just as nervous. I gotta go now. My parents will start wondering where I am if I'm not back soon, Gero. See you at class tomorrow, Alex-chan. I waved. See you there, Sue-chan. A few moments after she'd left, I grabbed my pillow and stuffed it in my face and shouted excitedly. I was grinning. I couldn't stop. A girl just accepted my invitation. A really nice girl. A really cute girl. She was going to come to my house this Friday at 8, and we were going to... Wait, what are the girls like again?